Nelson Mazariego says, it seems logical that a rebuild is needed. Does it make sense for Real Madrid to think about selling Vinicius with the imminent signing of Kylian Mbappe?
It would make sense in the way and in the sense that I think Mbappe is more comfortable on the left, as we talked extensively on last week's episode. So again, if Real Madrid receive a 200 million euros offer for Vinicius, I think it will be hard not to accept it. But definitely, you want to keep him around and try to make the fit work. Given how promising he's been so far this season, even though I think that he's been on a somewhat downward spiral for the last few weeks, if not months. I would say that so far his second half of the season hasn't been as good as the first, but you still have to trust him and give him confidence and see if he can be as good as he was during the first half of the season on a consistent basis. I think that he's earned it. So unless a crazy offer comes Madrid's way, I say that you definitely have to keep him around.
Yeah, I think you have to keep him. I mean, if the offer is 200 million, at least maybe you think about like, oh, okay, so that pretty much paves the way for Mbappe plus other reinforcements.
Plus Haaland, which is probably the most natural fit now. So I don't know. Yeah, but that offer is not going to come in the current circumstances and all. So it's just
as a thought experiment and as almost like a tangent, how much is Vinicius Jr. worth right now in today's market?
I don't know. I don't think I would pay more than 100 million, to be honest.
I'd pay more for that. I'd pay more for him. I mean,
sample size is a bit too small for me right now.
So transfer market has him listed at 110. I could see him go for more than that if he was available potentially. I could see it. But it would have to be like someone absolutely like crazy and rich to do it. I also think that but that's my opinion, and it's based on the fact that I personally believe that he's going to be a Ballon d'Or candidate. So that's where I'm thinking in terms of the value and the investment that he would be worth. I also think his dip in form, obviously it's true, he hasn't been as good as he was in the first half of the season. I would also think I also think it's fair to say that we almost expected a dip in form because the first half of the season was so good. Like, it's like we always know growth is not linear, so it's going to be ups and downs. So like the baseline is higher regardless, but it's almost like he's earned the right, if that makes sense, because we all just know young players aren't going to perfectly develop, and it's not always going to go up, up, up. It's going to be up, 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 down, up, 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 down. And I think right now he's in a little bit of a dip, partly to do with Benzema's when Benzema's not in the field. The decision making doesn't seem as sharp, and I don't know if he's able to carry it as well without Benzema. And the other thing is, there was that stretch where he was tired and all this, and I think he's going to be okay, but I wouldn't sell him. I still think that him and
I have two worries or concerns about Vinicius. The first one being that, as I said before, I think sample size with him being great is a bit too small, and I'm a bit skeptical and reluctant to think that a player who was struggling so much a year ago just wakes up one day and pretty much becomes Pelé. It's just not very realistic to me. And that's the only reason why I'm a bit skeptical with whether or not he's actually going to be as great as he was.
Well, hold on. Come on, like, there was signs of it. It's not like he woke up out of bed, and the one thing that what he was missing was the finishing aspect, which we had all agreed, I think, that it was mental. And it seems like he figured that out. Obviously, he's cooled down a little bit, but what's changed most, I mean, his numbers are all up, not just his finishing. It's like his carries are up, his carries into the final third, all that stuff. Like, there was an article I wrote around Christmas about him, and all of his metrics were up. So it's not just his finishing, but it all kind of...
Yeah, but not... It's not like those numbers are up. It's like the slope is might be a little bit too high for me to not to be skeptical. Like it's like he skipped a few stages in the process, and that's why, and that's that sort of growth so sudden and yeah, sudden is what makes me skeptical about him. Just I don't, and that doesn't mean that I would sell him for 60 million or that I would sell high on him right now. I just said that I think Real Madrid have to keep him mainly because he's earned it, and you have to be fair to the players who are earning it on the pitch in what was expected to be a very tough season for Real Madrid, and ultimately Real Madrid are leading the table because of Vinicius. Courtois and Benzema, just those three are to me, the main reasons why Real Madrid are leading the table, and I think Vinicius has earned it. But again, the fact that I feel like again he has skipped a few stages in his growth, in his process of becoming a very big player, and I don't know why. I would be maybe more safe, and I would feel safer if he had like played a little bit better than he was playing season, and then become this great 2 years from now. Like it would make more sense to me. Like the fact that he skipped those stages is a little bit suspicious to me, but again, he's earned it. So
Well, I think if you look at his trajectory, his first year was better than his second year.
sure.
So like that first arrival season when the expectations were low and we didn't really we kind of all felt he was ahead of schedule that first year with Solari, where he came in and the season was lost and it was a very transitory season. We had just lost Ronaldo, Lopetegui didn't work out, all these things, and Vinicius was kind of one of the things we got excited about that season, and he was ahead of schedule, and we started to talk. I remember we had big discussions with a lot of people because the year after we signed Hazard, and we were talking about like, well, how does this affect Vinicius? How can you bench him after the season he had? How can they coexist? And we kind of had these same discussions we're having now about Mbappe and Vinicius and how they'd fit, like who has to play on the right wing. We had that with Hazard. I remember that because we were saying, well, Hazard has experience playing the more central role sometimes at Chelsea. He has to roam around a little bit, play the 10. So maybe that could work, and you could have Vinicius on the left. That was a real discussion. And then the second year, he slumped a little bit. He had that sophomore slump. The scouting report was out. People knew how to play him. They started to double up on him. And then last year, he was good with his dribbling, but he just couldn't finish at all. And this season, he got the finishing part down up until the last couple of months. But he's still pretty damn good. But I think the next evolution for him, Lucas, is it'll continue to be mental. He just needs to get his head in the game and in a right state of mind. Because you could tell that in Clásico,
absolutely,
he
gets frustrated too often. Yeah,
frustrated too easily. The dives need to go.
The dives have become a bit embarrassing, man.
I understand the embellishment. I sympathize with
selling it.
Yeah, selling the call. I sympathize with that. But like, I mentioned this to the guys because being at the stadium for the Clásico, we didn't see the replays of the thing, and I didn't know. None of us knew he dove because from the angle we just saw him fall in the box, and there was players around him. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until, I kid you not, I was so sick to my stomach that night from the game, I didn't watch a single replay. So I see the dive until 24 hours later. I decided to put it on and see the dive for myself, and I was just shocked at that he didn't just shoot it instead of falling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So things like that, I think the mental aspect, he needs to not let players get under his skin.
And fans, by the way.
Yeah. On some level, it helps him because he's a type of player who also doesn't get scared and shy away, and he doesn't back down from anybody. So I think that it does help him in certain situations, but in other situations, you could tell he needs to just flow through the game a little bit more gracefully with a cooler head so that he can actually help the team, because some of the antics just don't help anyone, including himself and the team. What's up, Madridistas on YouTube? This is Kiyan and Sobhani. I hope you enjoyed that clip, and if you did, this rabbit hole goes much, much deeper. I would even dare to argue that it's an infinite hole that you can just go down and you'll never get bored. We have such a backlog of content on patreon.com/Managing Madrid, but also our podcast feed that is for free, Just search Managing Madrid on your podcast app. What you just listened to is a segment from the Thursday mailbag, which goes exclusively on patreon.com/Managing Madrid. It is worldwide renowned. It is famous. Real Madrid fans, they submit questions to myself and Lucas Navarrete, who is my fellow chief editor over on Managing Madrid. And we go through and we zip through and we answer Real Madrid questions for at least an hour. Usually it goes more, but sometimes less, and really depends on how much time we have. But it's a good chunk of content every single Thursday. This week's episode, we talked about some of the more horrific sequences and moments from El Clasico. We also spoke about, we're just given the fact that this actually preceded the Clasico. Naturally, there was a lot of questions about squad construction and how to build the roster in the summer. So we actually talked about our dream summer transfer window. We talked about the right back situation. We talked about the Mazraoui report that was released yesterday on Sport. We talked about Guti's quotes on Chiringuito. We talked about Carlo Ancelotti's job security. We talked about Xavi, Raul, Kessié, Tchouameni, Casemiro, Ferland Mendy, Sergio Reguilon, Gareth Bale's international call-up, and that actually was before he scored the brace, and then the world just spun into a tornado around him in the aftermath. And just before I release this video, he's released that social media tweet. So there's just a lot also that we can build on that. But yeah, the full episode is over on patreon.com/Managing Madrid. And we have some exciting news that we'll announce for you soon. I just wanted to tease that for you without even actually saying what it is. But stay tuned. And if you like this, again, patreon.com/Managing Madrid. We go really deep and we give you guys at least 2 bonus shows per week over there. And I hope you enjoy this. And I hope to see you inside. Hala Madrid.